Gambia's renowned comedian to run for president in the December 2021 elections. The use of internet increases in Nigeria thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. And Joe Biden calls for unity in America as he enters White House as the 46th president. Well, these and more coming your way on The World Today. Many thanks for joining us, and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin on iAfrica TV. I am Hamadou Kante, and now the news in detail. Now, Gambia's renowned comedian Kitabu Fati has told iAfrica TV on Thursday that he would register his own political party to participate in the upcoming December 4, 2021 presidential elections. The aspiring candidate for the Progressive Democratic Party said that he will finalize all his party's programs before the election. Amin Dao tells us more of that in this report.
As Gambians head to the polls for presidential election in December 2021, the country's famous comedian Kitabu Fati said he is fully ready to run for the country's highest office. According to the Progressive Democratic Party (PDP) leader, he is quitting his comedian career to the political arena because he wants to transform the country. Kitabu said his inspiration to join politics is due to the lack of progress and support for the young people in the country.
Looking at things in the Gambia right now and looking at the situation right now, Gambia in terms of development is that totally not. Gambia is totally not developed. Looking at every aspect of life in the Gambia. You know, and like the youths in the Gambia struggling and the women dying in our hospitals, you know, are things that are alarming, and I guess it's our own obligations and responsibilities to step up and join the political arena to make sure that the youths in outside the country and in the Gambia can be, can go into politics to make sure that their voice are heard.
Fati further said members of his party are finalizing the process to formally register the party with the Independent Electoral Commission as required by the law. According to him, being a comedian does not mean he can't become a president because every president once had a skill.
Because so said law, President Bogis amon na meche.
That's just a saying, because if you observe things, any president you see once had a skill. And in skill, what is more important is holding it, loving it, making the people of your country happy, and also advising them. And the comedian, if you observe their work, they are one of the most intelligent people in the whole world, if you observe properly. Because we have comedians being presidents in other countries. We have footballers being president in other countries, because looking at things, football too is a profession. Carpentry is a profession as well as other things.
Kitabu Fati is a native of Jara Pakalinding who is well known for comedy dramas on TVs and social media platforms. He is, however, confident to sweep the polls in December 4th presidential election and become Gambia's 4th head of state. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Amin Dao.
Right, Gambia's, of course, famous comedian there, of course, readying himself for the upcoming presidential elections in December 2021. Now, 2 years next, where Joe Biden has been sworn in as the 46th United States President on Wednesday, January 20, in a ceremony attended by former 3 presidents. In his inaugural speech, Biden calls on Americans to be courageous in their endeavors to defend the truth and conquer lies, especially in leadership. Biden said American democracy has prevailed. Omar Ahmad Toure reports.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
It is usually an indefinable moment as power transfers from one hand to the other, but this moment has become the ugliest way of power transfer in the American history, as President Trump did not appear at Biden's inauguration. President Biden, in his inaugural speech, told Americans to be bold enough in pursuing their goals and should defend truth and defeat lies, especially the leaders.
It's time for boldness, for there's so much to do. What are the common objects we as Americans love that define us as Americans? I think we know. Opportunity, security, liberty, dignity, respect, honor, and yes, the truth. Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies told for power and for profit. And each of us has a duty and a responsibility as citizens, as Americans, and especially as leaders who have pledged to honor our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and defeat the lies.
Biden promised to be president for all Americans. He called on them to unite, exercise tolerance, and put an end to what he called uncivil war amongst Americans. President Biden says American democracy has once again prevailed.
That we answered the call of history. We met the moment. Democracy and hope, truth and justice did not die on our watch but thrived. That America secured liberty at home and stood once again as a beacon to the world. That is what we owe our forebears, one another, and generation to follow.
However, this inaugural day is without the presence of the outgoing president for the first time in 152 years. Trump is the first president in more than a century to skip the inauguration of his successor. The inauguration looks different from previous inaugurations as this is due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic and increased security following the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol. Americans were told to stay at home to prevent further spread of the coronavirus that has claimed more than 400,000 lives in the United States. For iAfrica TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
U.S. President Joe Biden calls for unity as he ushered into office, becoming the 46th president of the United States. Now we come back home because the Gambia government on Wednesday said that it has signed a cooperation agreement on migration matters with the government of Switzerland in the city of Bern. The cooperation is meant to cope the irregular migration and ensure effective protection of the rights of Gambian citizens in Switzerland. Fatma Kasims has more details of that in this report.
Sekou Cisse, the public relations officer at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Thursday, told iAfrica's Good Morning Africa program that the agreement also aimed to boost relations and deepen cooperation with regards to the effective management of migration, unemployment, and to create more opportunities for the women and youths in the Gambia. Cisse said the government of the Gambia has negotiated for all undocumented Gambian migrants in Switzerland to be trained on livelihood skills and be integrated in the Swiss community.
And then we have agreed with our Swiss partners to provide skills to all undocumented Gambian migrants in Switzerland, to train them and equip them and integrate them in Swiss society. Because we told them very clearly that we don't have the required infrastructure. We don't have what it takes to accommodate these Gambians here. So therefore, let them equip them and train them and so that they can be very useful to both communities.
Aiding illegal migrants remain as a serious challenge in Switzerland. People who provide support to undocumented migrants in the country risk running afoul of the law despite acting purely on humanitarian basis. Cisse said the two countries have also agreed to initiate programs that could help create job opportunities to help mitigate migration challenges.
We have agreed to create a multi-purpose training center in the Gambia, the biggest for the first of its kind in the history of this country. A great multi-purpose skills training center will be created to train and equip Gambian youths, women, and young people to be equipped enough to be able to earn a respectable life in this country instead of venturing their lives in perilous journey to Europe. And then also, we are not only thinking of, providing skills to Gambian youth, but we are also thinking of reforming the prison systems of the Gambia, because this government believes that prisons should be rehabilitation centers, and not a place for punishment So therefore, we will reform the entire prison systems of this country, and that will happen in concert with our Swiss partners.
As the Gambia progresses in enhancing her democracy, there is a need to ensure that the country adheres to international human rights instruments by respecting the laws of other countries, while also ensuring Gambian citizens within and outside enjoy the required protection of the government, according to the statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The Gambia government and Switzerland have agreed that all legal remedies will be exhausted before any voluntary returnees will be repatriated back to the country. For iAfrica TV, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
And from the report there by Fatoumata Kasim, next to Nigeria, where the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic has boosted internet business in the country, despite the economic challenges faced by other sectors in the country. The West African country telecom market is one of the fastest growing in the world and the largest in the continent, according to the Oxford Business Group. Experts say the fast growing of the internet sector is due to the proper mechanism outlined to guide its operation. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Anoluwakpo Samuel runs this one-stop shop for internet services in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. She vends internet hardware and data subscription for major telcos in the country. Her customer base has increased by about 65% since March 2020. Recording a turnover of over 500%.
Before COVID, you have people taking about 15 gig, 30 gig, and still tell you, oh, I can't exhaust this, it's too much. But when the COVID came and all of that, you have people taking up to like 350 gig in a month. The impact, I must say, has been positive. Because, of course, now we have more people subscribed to your platform, more people paying, and the turnover has been massive.
According to the Oxford Business Group, Nigeria's telecom market is one of the fastest growing in the world and the largest in Africa. Internet subscribers rose by 7.88 million in the third quarter of 2020 to hit 151.5 million. The surge was mainly driven by the COVID-19 lockdown.
It all started with the people staying home, and then they had to study online. And then offices shutting down, and then they had to work from home. And then I would also include boredom. A lot of people were bored staying at home, and they had absolutely nothing to do. So most times their company is the Netflix, which also consumes a lot of data.
We have strong policy that is driving the growth of the sector. You see where a situation where the sector is well manned, well regulated, well monitored, and this allows for the progress or the growth we're seeing because of the role the NCC and the other agencies play, and then the policy drive around it, particularly with the Buhari administration policy around communication and all of that.
The telecom sector is seen as a huge contributor to the nation's economy. Besides job creation and business growth, it accounted for about 14.30% of the national GDP in the third quarter of 2020. That's compared to 10.6% recorded in the previous year. Many are now taking advantage of the vibrancy offered by the telecoms industry and diversifying their sources of income.
The use of internet increases in Nigeria thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. And from the report there in Abuja, Nigeria, we will now take a break and come back shortly with the remaining of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
For the first time in the Gambia, your favorite GSM operator, Africell, is the first and only GSM operator to launch a brand new technology called the eSIM. The eSIM simply means you can use your phone without a SIM card. Do you have an iPhone 11, any of the iPhone X series, a Google Pixel 3, or any new phone that supports the e-technology? Then walk into any Africell customer care center and activate your eSIM today. With your virtual Africell SIM, you can use more than one number without having a physical SIM card in your phone. Enjoy this brand new technology for the first time in the Gambia, brought to you by Africell. eSIM, your phone without a SIM card. For more information, please call 111. Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Welcome back, and you're watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV, and now to the rest of the stories. Now, Uganda have experienced a rough moment ahead of the recent concluded presidential election that took place on January 14. The internet was shut down across the country shortly before the start of voting, and many raised concerns over the international community's reactions. But members of the European Council held a video conference saying the unprecedented internet blackout illustrated lack of transparency. Sona Tunkara has more details of that in this report.
Museveni, who has ruled Uganda since 1986, was declared the winner of the January 14 poll with 59% of the votes against opposition leader Bobi Wine's 35%. The election process unfolded badly, claiming the lives of Bobi Wine's supporters and suppression of their legal rights. On election day, Ugandans were assured from the rest of the world with a total internet blackout. This made many raise questions, challenging the international community's assistance when needed the most.
The EU takes note of the announcement of the presidential election results by the Electoral Commission. To walk you through the EU 27 declaration published on the 20th of January, where we welcome that no major violent incidents were reported on the election day, but regret that the disproportionate role given to security forces, according to the election, brought forth violence in the pre-electoral period.
On Monday, the internet connection resumed partially after days of unprecedented blackout, and according to EU's Masrali Nabila, they have called for full resumption of internet services and access to social media, noting that it deferred transparency and access to information.
As remarked in the EU declaration on the 20th of January, access to social media was disturbed, and a full internet blackout disrupted freedom of expression, freedom of information, and regular economic and social activities. In particular, this severely hampered the work of journalists, observers, party agents, and others expected to report on the polling results and scrutinize them. So the internet blanket shutdown was unprecedented and disturbed the regular business and communication in Uganda. This illustrated the lack of transparency and the curtailing of freedoms, access to information, freedom of media in the electoral process in Uganda.
Although Museveni dubbed the election and he is now serving sixth consecutive term in office in Uganda's history, Bobi Wine has manifested to set a benchmark to free Uganda from dictatorial rule. Bobi Wine took to Twitter saying his residence in Kampala has been surrounded by army a day after Uganda conducted its elections. For iAfrica News, I am Daisy.
That report was filed in there by the CC instead of Sona Tunkara, as I earlier mentioned. Now, Momodu Hydra, the managing director of Jail Company, told iAfrica TV on Wednesday that they are working on modalities to build a cement factory in the Gambia if they are supported by the government and other sectors in the country. In 2012, the company constructed and established a cement dust processing plant for the production and marketing of Tiger cement. Fatma Kasim has more of that in this report.
Jar Oil Cement Processing Plant is adequately equipped with a cement dust processing machine, craft paper cement bag making machine, and all other machineries needed to operate a modern cement dust processing plant. Momodu Haidara, the company's managing director, said they now want to have a cement plantation that will manufacture cement in the Gambia. Haidara said supporting local industry is important, especially if they want them to expand.
Very soon, everything starts. There is a problem somewhere on that. I don't want to delve on that because since this is about petroleum. You see, supporting local industries is very important if you want them to expand. When you go around Jimpex and other places, how many types of cement do you see in this country? How many? Huh? Foreign cements, right? And how many factories do we have here? 3. Huh? You want to tell me those 3 cannot meet national demand? This small country?
Are those packaging factories?
No, they are packaging, but this is where it starts. You start packaging, and then you get the support and then the progress needed, and then you go to something else.
However, the managing director added that having a company that is manufacturing cement in the country does not make it cheaper than the imported one. Haidara explained the reason why the company sells cement at a reasonable price, and he has this to say.
We are very much open. In fact, we are working on that as we are speaking. But it takes a lot of effort from both sides, from government, from the sector itself, to come together and work out a solution on how we get real industries, like you put it. And another thing is, sometimes people misconstrue one thing. Having a factory being manufactured here doesn't necessarily mean that when that product comes out, it's going to be cheaper than the imported, the bagging one, the bagged one, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that. So what we are looking for, this cement, when cement before in this country used to be over $300, right? Thanks to Jar Oil, it is now $250, and we still want to knock it down further. But there are certain things that needs to get out of the way. It is the only company that has started importing from the history down to now so many thousands of metric tons. It's unprecedented. This is why people don't understand. They said, okay, how come their cement is cheaper than the others? Maybe some people even insinuate maybe it is a bad cement, that's why. No, it is the volume. If you are in the business industry, you are importing 10 dozens and I'm importing 200 dozens. Who will have a discount? That's the secret.
In 2012, after obtaining its operating license from the Gambia government, Jam Multi-Industrial Company began the importation and marketing of building materials, sand mining, basalt stone, gravel, and wash stones. Approval was given for the company to operate in the construction industry with the building of residential and commercial properties having varying specification and targeted at low and middle income working class Gambians both at home and abroad, and facilities to service the tourism industry. For iAfrica TV, I am Fatoumata Kasim.
Jawel company working on modalities to build a cement factory in the Gambia with the support of the Gambia government and other sectors. Now, we move on as the rollout for COVID-19 vaccines continues. The Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention has formed a task force to help African countries to access effective approved vaccines. Considering the number of rolled out vaccines in different countries, the World Health Organization has urged countries to be vigilant in their efforts to access vaccines. The African Union has already acquired more than 2 million doses from 3 manufacturers to be distributed among member countries. Here are more details of that in this report.
While the African Union's plan is to procure COVID-19 vaccines as a bloc, some individual countries are already making bilateral agreements with manufacturers. The World Health Organization says there are currently more than 50 COVID-19 vaccine candidates undergoing human trials. According to the World Health Organization, having lots of vaccines in development increases the chances that one or more successful vaccines will be proven to be safe and efficacious for the intended prioritized populations. But it is cautioning countries to obtain only vaccines that have been scientifically proven to be fit for use. The Africa CDC has formed a task force to guide African countries on this.
Regulatory agencies that have come together to establish themselves as a collective of regulatory bodies so that we can work regionally using the same and standardized approach from the African CDC to facilitate the approval process and regulatory processes of vaccines. So that if a vaccine is submitted, say in South Africa, they work with the SADC regulatory authorities there and put their stamp of approval at it.
The African Union has already secured 270 million doses from 3 manufacturers, AstraZeneca, Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson. The first 2 have provisional approval from the WHO to be used as a double dose globally. The task force will guide on approved doses for each vaccines too.
So our position is clear. If a vaccine was tested for safety and also tested in phase 3 clinical trials as a double dose, it should be used as a double dose. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is coming up as it's a single dose. We keep our fingers crossed that the vaccine will show efficacy, good efficacy results. And then it will be the emergency use authorization will be based on a single dose. And at that point, of course, it will be used as a single dose.
And with over 200 vaccine candidates for COVID-19 being developed, the Africa CDC says it is advisable for countries to use the African Union as a main point of contact to the manufacturers.
From the report there on COVID-19 matters, finally to South Sudan. Now, the South Sudanese government has agreed to boost relations with Sudan to increase oil production between the two countries. The two states have also agreed to coordinate their activities in a bid to improve revenue collection. Experts warn that the increased oil production without accountability and transparency, the sector will not benefit the citizenry. Let's have more details of that in this report.
Oil money funds more than 98% of South Sudan's government budget. However, oil production and revenue have fallen since 2013. Civil war from 2013 to 2018 destroyed some oil facilities. Petroleum production plummeted from around about 320,000 barrels a day to the current 180,000 barrels a day, according to the Petroleum Ministry. An increase in production will mean more use of oil infrastructure in Sudan, which requires cooperation from Khartoum.
We have agreed that Sudan will have a coordination office in Juba. The ministry will have a coordination office in Juba. We have a coordination office here in Khartoum, and we will also have in Port Sudan, where we receive our goods most of the time. This coordination office are meant to ease communication between the two countries, between the two ministries, and is also meant to ease the operation in the oil fields.
Sudan's new government is still experiencing communal violence in parts of the country. Extra security measures have been put in place. Juba says some of those security measures delay the arrival of vital supplies required in the oil fields. Khartoum is promising to address the situation.
We have directed our taxation officials, security operatives and state governments to prioritise clearing of goods meant for oil fields. This is one way to ensure we increase production.
Investors in South Sudan's oil sector include national oil companies from Malaysia, India and China. Some experts warn that increasing oil production without transparency and accountability in the sector will not benefit many South Sudanese people, but the government insists it wants to increase production, generate more revenue, then invest in infrastructure such as roads and develop the country's agriculture sector.
And from the report there in South Sudan, has South Sudanese government agreed to boost relations with Sudan on oil production. We finally bring this news bulletin to an end, but for more details on this and other stories, as always, you can log on to our website on africa.tv. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and bye for now.